your overtime thriller in Madison.
We had a great one in Madison. Half-court shot, sent it into overtime. Wisconsin got the win, but I'm not sure Jerry Grant played until the last 45. I'm not sure anybody played until the last minute, but Garrick Sherman was terrific in overtime. That game went from a snoozer to everybody scoring every possession.
Sampson hits the jumper out of the timeout.
Can't we say to Russ Smith, like, relax a little bit?
And how about Rick Pitino not calling a timeout in 5 consecutive, quote, in-game situations? That surprised you?
Yeah, it did. I mean, maybe not after 1, but after 2 or 3, you got to figure we're not doing so well.
Grant with the bucket. That's Jaron's brother, Jeremy Grant. You know, speaking of that game last night, I was actually watching some of that with St. John's coach Steve Lavin, who is, as we mentioned, not here because his father Cap passed away after that game last night. And Rico Hines is coaching. What kind of a challenge is that for St. John's, not having your head man here?
There's 2 ways this can go. This can go as if the substitute teacher has taken over and everybody relaxes, or the team can use it. Hey, we've got to play this for coach. We've got to make him happy. Play this for coach's father. You know, we'll see, but it can go either way. Every time that I was at Indiana and the coach got suspended, we got pounced because I guess we weren't mature enough to handle it. I don't know, but it can go either way.
And Cap Lavin was somebody that all these players knew. In fact, as fair scores, St. John's played a game at San Francisco where Cap was a Hall of Fame player. They scheduled a game there this year. It was a great opportunity for Steve to spend some time with his ailing father, and also the players to get a chance to meet somebody that was so important in a coach's life.
Yeah, and he was a great friend, Cap Lavin was, of Gene Cady. And I had a chance to talk to Coach Cady, who's on the bench of St. John's, and he was distraught, really heartbroken over the death of Cap Lavin. But I got to tell you, St. John's isn't playing very well, nor are they playing very hard.
Carter Williams gets the layup, and the lead is 8 for Syracuse.
Right now, St. John's is playing like the substitute teacher is in charge, and the real teacher is gone for the day.
Bad breath is a very common problem, although many people do not know they suffer from it. Bad breath occurs due to stale-smelling sulfur gases which originate in the mouth. CB12 is a new, effective solution for this problem. CB12 eliminates the sulfur gases which lead to bad breath and is effective for 12 hours.
CB12 and I love it!
CB12, only available in pharmacies.
Syracuse already with 3 steals and shooting 70% from the floor, leading St. John's by 8.
St. John's, one of the best in the country at not turning it over. We're only 11 a game, but hey, if you're going to throw passes with humps on them, Michael Carter-Williams, Trish, Fair, they're going to steal it. And when they steal it, as Tom Izzo says, man, it's touchdowns.
Now
it's
hold
not
on.
First downs, touchdowns.
That comment you just made sounds similar to my other partner, something he might say with the pass that has humps on it. What does that mean?
Pass that has the hump on it is curved. A pass that doesn't have a hump on it, you can hang your wash on.
James Sutherland in the game for the first time.
I will be shocked, Dave, and I don't know why this happens, but I'll be shocked if he doesn't have a really good game. Your first game back, you're hungry, you're focused. He'll have a good game tonight, and then next game he'll be awful. Just telling you. All right.
They traveled there, so so far you're not off to a good start with your prediction.
He'll have a good game after the first possession, and then he'll be awful.
14 points per game. Jim Boeheim was telling us before the game he doesn't know how James will react. He knows he'll be excited being back, home game after missing the last 6 with a quote eligibility issue.
You got to remember he did practice though. But he has bad eyes right now. He's got the eyes of kind of starstruck, which he shouldn't. He's a senior, regardless of how much he sat out.
He has not had a foul yet in the game, more than 7 minutes gone by. Harrison into traffic, and it's blocked by Kita. The shot clock doesn't reset, and eventually Syracuse gets control. Carter Williams, took it in on the shot blocker, Obekpa, who's averaging 4 blocks a game, and he missed the dunk. Harrison, long rebound, Carter Williams. poked out of bounds by St. John.
Carter Williams would have made this, but watch right here. He cocks it. Daryl Dawkins stop right there. Just a little bit back too much, Dave. If he would have just kept it vertical, he would have dunked that, but he went chocolate thunder on him. Daryl Dawkins back in the day.
Sutherland's first shot won't go, and Garrett with a rebound.
Remember Daryl Dawkins?
Absolutely. We had that anniversary of the Jerome Lane dunk a few weeks ago. We broke the backboard, but Daryl Dawkins is the king of that. Right?
He's the king, and he would always like pull it back behind his neck. I bet you that's the first time Michael Carter Williams has been compared to Daryl Dawkins in his life.
Maybe the last.
Probably.
Way off the mark is Balamu. And C.J. Fair gets to the loose ball. Scoring, almost 9 minutes gone by, still no fouls. It's an 8-point Syracuse lead. Now for Fair, rebounded by Obekpa, who averages 6 boards. And as we mentioned, 4.5 blocks per game. That's second behind Nerlens Noel in the country. Harrison fouled. It's on Keita.
I like that much better than the open quick three. Like push it down like they've pushed it, but get it inside. I'll drive it off a transition.
Coming up, we'll talk about some of the St. John's players in the mix for the Wooden Award in the past.
Chris Mullin, a 3-time Big East Player of the Year, led St. John's to the 1985 Final Four. For his efforts that season, Mullin was selected as the Wooden Award winner. He remains the school's all-time leading scorer.
Chris Mullin, not the only St. John's player to take home the Wooden Award. Walter Berry, 1986, the year after Mully won it. We have a candidate for the Wooden Award in this game, but it's on the other side. Michael Carter Williams, who's on the Wooden Award mid-year top 25. He's also a Cousy Award finalist, one of 12 still standing for the top point guard in the country.
Yeah, well, Wooden Award committee needs to add 2 names to it, and they can. Beginning of March, they can add people's names who aren't on the mid-season list, which is ridiculous to have a mid-season list. But Victor Oladipo is a first-team All-American from Indiana, much less a Wooden Award candidate. And the Olenek kid from Gonzaga, he's not on it either, and he's playing as well as any big kid not named Marshall Plumlee in the country, in my opinion. So I'm guessing you will see those 2 names added to the Wooden Award list, which is what they're able to do and come 1st of March.
Oladipo, by the way, had 26 today in a big win for Indiana against Ohio State, which makes you wonder, okay, they lost to Illinois, unranked team on the road, the way they lost. They come back and beat Ohio State. Are they still number 1, or is Duke number 1 if it can beat Boston College as Trish nails a 3?
I think Duke will probably be number 1, but if you forgot about resume, and it's hard to do that, but just went by who's playing the best, it would be hard not to have Miami in there. If you just went by who's playing, well, forget resume. Don't tweet me and tell me who they've lost to. I know who they've lost to, but in terms of playing right now, nobody's playing better than Miami.
Another St. John's turnover. Trevor Cooney with the steal. It's Trish. And swatted, but it's going to be goaltending. Basket for Keita. Obekpa will stay at 101 blocks on the season. ESPN's Journey to the Tourney, a season-long spotlight on games that will impact the tournament. We know one team that won't be number 1 this week, Kansas, losing 3 straight in a big one, the Sunflower Showdown against K-State, Monday at 9.
Yeah, how about the job Bruce Weber's done? 18-4. I know Coach Martin left him some pretty good players, but Bruce Weber is a really good basketball coach.
And don't think he wants to beat Bill Self after what took place with him taking over for Self when he took the Kansas job at Illinois, right?
Yeah, and Bruce made a mistake. He had like a fake funeral. I guess it wasn't a mistake because his team went to the final game, but it riled up a lot of Illinois fans. He had like a fake funeral for Bill Self.
Offensive foul call as Keita draws the charge. So what you're saying is Self is looking forward to facing Weber as well.
I would think both of them would really like to win that game.
Kansas won the first meeting.
It's like Kansas State never beats Kansas. But here's something, you don't see that very often. You rarely see a charge in half-court offense against his own or by his own.
That's the first foul on St. John's. Sutherland will take the three. Short. Rebounded by Pointer. Syracuse 3 of 5 from behind the arc and an 11-point lead. And Green's pass intercepted. Coach Bayham was telling us, Dan, before the game just how good he thinks his zone is right now.
Yeah, and you know, people say, well, Sutherland's back, and you know, he's that. He's a shooter. Well, pretty good defender, really good in the zone.
Great job by Keita. How about the minutes he's given Syracuse so far? Got a block, drawn a charge, couple rebounds.
Dave, you know what is the most ludicrous argument in college basketball? Is what level is Jim Boeheim as a coach? I'll give you a level. How about Mount Rushmore of coaches? Has to have Jim Boeheim on it. And I'm watching out here, and people say, well, he's a great recruiter. Sure he is. Every great coach is a great recruiter. But they are as good as any team I have seen all year against the zone, moving the ball, putting people in the right spots. You see it right there. Second time Ferris hit a shot on the baseline.
Well, think about it. He's your alma mater's one shot away from winning 2 national titles. And think about it, had he won it 16 years apart, in 87 and 03, for 16 years they wouldn't have been saying what some of the negative comments that were made about him, saying he couldn't win the big game. Had that shot not gone for Keith Smart in 87.
And it was a bad shot. I mean, when the guy fell out, Daryl Thomas got the ball in the post and no more wanted to shoot it than it. I mean, he wanted to get rid of it. He kicks it to Smart. Smart's falling out of bounds into the cheerleaders. He knocks it in, and all of a sudden Jim Boeheim can't win the big one.
And Coach Knight always says the key to that play was the pass by Daryl Thomas.
Well, Coach Knight's giving Daryl Thomas a lot of credit. Because Daryl Thomas, if you watch the film, and I love Daryl, he was a teammate, but he no more wanted the ball.
Trish ends up with possession. Still time on the clock. As Trish has it blocked, they're going to call a foul, though, on Harrison. That's his first and the third on St. John's. All Syracuse right now leading by 12, trying to win their 37th straight home game. And points off turnovers. You talked about it in the one-on-one segment, just how important turnovers were for St. John's if it wanted to get a win against the team that has the longest active home win streak in college basketball at 36 in a row. Trish at the line, 75% free throw shooter.
That's the coolest man in college basketball right there, in my opinion. Not Trish, Jim Boeheim. I mean, we went in and talked to him. He's watching Indiana, Ohio State game, watches every basketball game that's on. Just talking.
And if they win today, it'll be 35 20-win seasons in 37 years as a head coach, number 1 all time.
I mean, what more do you want? I mean, I'm watching their execution. You know, people say, well, it's just a zone. No, this is a matchup zone that works really hard. Like, you can play any zone you want, Dave, as long as you move fast in it. And they move quickly.
I think how long it's worked, too, as you got a Syracuse foul. That's the second team foul on the orange, and they're going to get Keita for a second person. I mean, this is something that Syracuse has been doing for years, the zone. Yet opponents still have trouble with it, even teams like St. John's that face it once to 3 times a season.
Yeah, because when you talk to Coach Boeheim about it, they play it different ways. You know, they do as much scouting as anybody that plays man-to-man. I mean, they want to know what you're doing and how to take it away. They recruit to it, just like teams that play man-to-man. But yet, there's a stigma with the zone that you're not as tough. Well, the guy who's coaching the zone is in the list with only Coach Knight and Coach Krzyzewski in terms of wins. So there's a little bit of toughness in what he does. Actually, there's a lot of bit of toughness in what he does.
He's always had a really good staff, including Mike Hopkins, who is his lead assistant. Hop certainly a head coaching candidate elsewhere, and also once Jim Boeheim decides to retire, but that may not be for a while. He still enjoys coaching. Grant on the drive, gets to the lane, and could not put it in. Right now Syracuse out hustling the Red Storm. Good pass by Carter Williams, and the finish by Grant. How does St. John's stop the bleeding, or how do they fix things offensively?
Well, they're kind of dribbling. Rick Majerus used to call it, you have to have a judicious use of the dribble. They're dribbling aimlessly out here. They're not moving people. They're not creating a 2-on-1. That's a good pass there.
Good defense by Christmas, and Garrett couldn't put it in.
And on the defensive end, they're just not playing. I mean, Syracuse can do whatever they want. It's a bad shot because you don't need it. You can take that shot with 5 seconds going to shot clock. You don't need that.
And it results in a foul on one of your bigs, Rakeem Christmas, his first.
You see right here, it helps when you have a creative passer, but that's Grant knowing how to play. He went to DeMatha, which is a legendary high school program. They teach kids how to play there. And you saw an example. A lot of kids would have just gone up on the same side or pump fake. He made it look very easy, and that was not an easy play. You have to do different things against Syracuse's zone also, Dave. And they're basically, St. John's doing the same thing, setting a little ball screen on top. But
how about Phil Green? Is a guy shooting 18% from 3 in league games, and he's hit 2 here in the first half. Syracuse trying to tie Marquette for first place. Marquette has a big Monday game at Georgetown. Fair connects on a 3. The Hoyas are playing great basketball, by the way. They've won 5 straight. They're the hottest team in the Big East. Really, 6 or 7 teams in contention to win the championship. 15-point Syracuse lead, 5.5 to go in the first half. Green, teardrop. And how about Green averaging 11 points per game his last 4, and he's got 8 of the 19 for St. John's here.
Well, he's the one guy that's, and this should never happen, but he's the one guy playing at a different pace than everybody else on St. John's. And when you play hard, good things happen. He's just playing harder, Green is, than the rest of his teammates.
14 foul on St. John's. Harrison picking up his second personal. Now, I think St. John's needs Bourgault to be a factor against that zone, because you're going to get some opportunities to hit threes. And he's been hot coming into today. 3 of 3 in his last game.
Yeah, and they were, you know, the first 3 shots or 2 shots in the game were Bourgault in the corner, and obviously that was the setup. Now, he just happened to miss him, but you have to go back to it because he was open.
Here's Trish firing. Can't get the 3. And a foul on Bourgault for pulling on the jersey of Jeremy Grant. 15 foul, first on Bourgault.
Bourgault had a look of, what? And he tackled him almost.
Christmas turns and fires, way off. Only 3 players scored so far for St. John's in this game. Syracuse, meanwhile, with 13 baskets, 8 assists. And another St. John's turnover as Garrett travels.
You know, St. John's has made 2 really good moves against the zone. They last possession fired one the same spot down to the right short corner. Didn't get a shot up. That time, pretty good pass, same place, right short corner, didn't get a shot up.
Alley-oop off the mark again. That's twice they've misfired on an alley-oop. Super Tuesday, part of Rivalry Week, presented by Wendy's, comes this week with the SEC Big Ten 7-9 Eastern, Kentucky and Florida, Michigan State. These rankings will be all different than you see right now. Florida lost, Michigan lost. We'll see where Michigan State is. You'll be on hand for the Michigan State game.
I think Michigan State's as dangerous a team moving forward as there is in the Big Ten. Adrian Payne has been terrific ever since he and Brandon Dawson got in a fight in a hotel room.
By the way, the new top 25 will be out tomorrow. It'll be interesting to see how the top 5 shapes up. Michael Carter-Williams, a beautiful no-look pass into traffic that somehow got through Trish, or to Trish rather. He lost the ball though. A little shaken up too. His left hand. Harrison spotting up, short with a 3. And how about Obekpa working on the glass, gets the bucket, and a Syracuse foul, a 3-point opportunity for the freshman from Nigeria. St. John's with a chance to cut the lead to 10 when we come back.
Kevin Nagandi here, ahead on the UPS halftime report. Indiana looking to avoid back-to-back losses for the first time in over a year. How would they respond in Columbus? UConn needing a strong second half to survive on the road at Seton Hall. 2 words, guard play. Kara Lawson would join me. For now, let's go back to Dave, Dan in the Dome. Guys.
All right, Kevin. Here's our Associated Press top 10 as it looks today. This will change tomorrow. So you say Miami right now is playing the best basketball of anybody in the country, or Gonzaga?
Well, you could probably make a case for both. I just think that the way Miami has beaten people, I mean, and maybe I'm giving North Carolina too much credit, I guess, but Duke and Indiana, probably one of the two is going to be #1 in the country, and if Duke is it, Miami's beating them by 27. So you know, their resume is not near what Duke's is. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I totally understand that, but if you want to go by who's playing well now, they got to be certainly #1 and #2.
In the end, when the NCAA tournament field is set, they will look at the entire season, and that might hurt Miami because of some of the losses earlier in the year. Syracuse turns it over.
Yeah, but they'll also look at, you know, Reggie Johnson not playing in
True.
those games where they lost. And, you know, again, there's so much left in this season. I mean, now the games are, you know, you're going to play some pressure-packed games for conference titles, some conference tournament titles. I mean, this is where you're going to be able to build a resume. For a team like Miami or Indiana or Duke or whomever.
But imagine if Miami keeps winning and gets a 1 seed. You have a 1 seed that lost to Florida Gulf Coast in Indiana State. I know you're saying Johnson wasn't there, but just looking at that resume and seeing that as a 1 seed, I don't know that we've had that happen before in the history of the tournament.
No, but if you're asking me, I think that's a good thing because I've always believed we don't reward teams for improvement during the season. You can say, oh, you want to look at the whole body work. That's great, and I get that. You have to do that, and all the computer guys will tell you that. But the coach in me says, look, man, they've improved. Look how good they are now relative to where they were.
Offensive foul on Rakeem Christmas, his second, 15 foul on Syracuse. St. John's another opportunity here to get it down to single figures with 2.5 to go.
And the reason they're able to do it is now 5 straight possessions, either been a bad shot or a turnover by Syracuse. Syracuse is kind of playing like the crowd is acting. Kind of quiet and going along.
Syracuse has not played since Monday. Beat Notre Dame 63-47. Now 3 fouls on D'Angelo Harrison as he's called for the push-off. And he'll have to come out.
Well, D'Angelo Harrison was a problem with his coaches during the last timeout. And I do believe Carter Williams did a little acting there. But D'Angelo Harrison, he didn't want to hear it during the last timeout, and that's on him. You know, Thad Matta said to me one time, as a coach, modern-day coach, if you could just be the 3rd voice that the players listen to, not the 7th. Well, D'Angelo Harrison, after the last timeout, didn't want to hear from anybody, kind of made a scene, and one of the assistant coaches had to grab him, and that's only hurts D'Angelo Harrison. Doesn't hurt anybody but him.
Trish off the heel. Syracuse got off to a hot start from 3. Now they can't put it in the hole, and with 2 minutes to go, St. John's another missed opportunity to cut it to 8. C.J. Fair and an offensive foul. Outside the restricted area was Pointer to draw the charge, so no basket. That is the greatest foul in the history of Syracuse basketball.
Look how high he is. I think it's a pretty good call. The Syracuse crowd doesn't like it. Michael Carter Williams threw it to C.J. Fair too early. I'm not sure there was contact there, though, Dave. That was impressive. I mean, that woke this place up.
First foul on Fair. Sampson in the high post. And big sequence here. St. John's with another chance to get this thing down to single digits after really playing poorly for most of the half. Their head coach Steve Lavin not here because his father passed away. And of course, Steve been through so much himself, only around for 4 games last year, dealing with cancer. His late father Cap, a cancer survivor at one time. So Rico Hines, who's been on Steve's staff for 3 years, the head coach today, with Steve trying to get back to San Francisco to spend time with the family.
Yeah, and a lot of people in the basketball community are heartbroken because Cap Lavin was a very, very well-respected man throughout the country in basketball circles. May not have been known that much nationally, but within basketball circles, very well respected and loved.
Pointer with his second foul. Sutherland hits the 1-and-1. And Steve Lavin talks so much about his dad, John Wooden, and that man as being the most influential men in his life.
Yeah, back in the day, Steve came and spent some time with me at Indiana when I was an assistant coach. Then he went and spent time with Gene Cady and their staff, and ended up hooking on with Gene Cady and was an assistant coach for Coach Cady for a few years.
Cady, a special assistant and consultant on the St. John's staff. Another offensive foul. Well, we had no fouls the first 7 minutes and 100 here in the last 10.
Well, don't think for a second that referees don't know this is on ESPN and they want to get on TV.
And here's a great shot here with Cady and Coach Wooden and a young Lav.
Coach Pete Newell there to Lavin's right, and then you see Cap Lavin, Steve's dad, on the left. How about Coach Cady? Cut his hair, got married, moved to Battery Park in Manhattan. This is a guy from like a town with 5 people in it, Kansas, living in Manhattan, and he loves every minute of it.
Sutherland, tough shot. Under a minute to go, St. John's ball down 12. St. John shooting 35% from the field and just 2 of 10 from 3. So far, C.J. Fair, the leading scorer, with 10 points for Syracuse, and he has 6 rebounds. Garrett fouled by Christmas, who just picked up his 3rd. 8th team foul. 2 shots coming up for Garrett.
His 3rd personal, 7th team foul on Syracuse.
That's just a bad foul. I mean, and there's certain things that, Dave, disgust you as a coach, and that is one of them. Fouling a guy that's really not a great shooter on an 18-foot jump shot at the end of the half.
Garrett only a 52% free throw shooter, and that's the first. Keita will replace Christmas, who will take a seat with 3 fouls.
Keita's played really well today, and that would be huge for Syracuse if that kid right there can continue to progress.
4 points, 2 rebounds, got a block, drew a charge as well.
Yeah.
So both free throws go for a 50% shooter. Amir Garrett, it's a 10-point game, about a 2-second difference between game and shot clocks here at the end of the first half. Carter Williams calling for the ball screen. Now Trish, they leave him open, and he nails a 3. His second 3-pointer, 10 points in the game. 2 seconds left. Borgo can't answer from the corner. He finishes the half 0 for 4. And that's a 13-point Syracuse lead at the half. Fair and Trish combined for 20. St. John's as a team has 24. Syracuse trying to get its 20th win of the season. We got a 13-point lead at the break. Here's Kevin Agandi now, the UPS halftime report.
Dave, thank you so much. Let's start the best conference in all of college hoops, and that is the Big Ten. Indiana, #1 in the nation at the time, looking to avoid back-to-back losses for the first time since last year in January, facing off against Thad Matta as well in the Buckeyes, and that is Deshaun Thomas. Carol Lawson, he had 26.
He might be the toughest guard in the Big Ten. Deshaun Thomas, he can take you inside and take you outside. He carried Ohio State's offense today. It
was Indiana's own Big Three. Victor Oladipo coming in and flying. Cody Zeller, as well as Christian Watford. Here's Zeller to Oladipo.
Oladipo made 3 pivotal plays when Indiana was able to stretch it out to 10 points. He made a jumper, he made a 3 right here, and that was the big point in the game that Indiana was able to stretch it out.
Had 26 points, the lead at 11. Here's Watford with 20. Oladipo, Watford, and Zeller combined for 70 of the team's 81 points. Indiana rebounding after that tough loss to Illinois in Columbus, getting the win 81-68. UPS halftime report. Carol Lawson, Kevin Agandi here. Let's go back to the Syracuse game. It is a tale of how do you attack the zone. Syracuse, good. St. John's, not so good.
Yeah, St. John's not so good. And what Syracuse has, the advantage they have on the defensive end is their length. I mean, they're perimeter players. And you start with Michael Carter-Williams at the top, and watch how they anticipate and how they close out. They come up from that back line. They make sure you don't have any free space. If you come up, someone is ready to play. Great job there by anticipation, coming out, challenging shooters and challenging the driver. When we take a look at Syracuse here, possession is free. It's kind of easy. Obekpa's going to be late in the back middle of that zone to challenge that shot from Fair. And if you're late against Syracuse, their shooters are going to make you pay. They've hit 5 threes in the first half. They've also forced double-digit turnovers in that zone against St. John's.
Syracuse has won 36 straight home games. That is the longest active home winning streak in Division I men's hoops. We're going to stick around and talk about the Big East because UConn needed a strong second half, especially from their 2 big guards, to survive on the road at Seton Hall.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Citi Thank You Cards. Redeem your points to travel with no blackout dates. Welcome back to the UPS Halftime Report.
Kevin Nagani, Kara Lawson with you. UConn has won 12 of the last 13 meetings against Seton Hall. Kevin Ollie's squad, though, in some trouble. They were down 7 in the second half. Second half continued, though, and Shabazz Napier decided to step up.
Everything goes through Napier and Boatwright. Napier and Boatwright, and they are electric in transition.
Oh, some all-star activity. Boatwright and Napier connecting off the glass there. Napier had 22 points, 9 assists, 6 steals. Boatwright with 20. UConn winning this one by 11. Virginia, Maryland, the annual Gold Rush game for the Terps where they wear those gold jerseys. It didn't help. They were not money. It was more about Virginia. They were up by 6 after Joe Harris hit that 3.
Virginia had the Gold Rush going on from beyond the arc. 11 threes. And how about Tony Bennett's squad? Solid block on 3rd place in the ACC.
Akeel Mitchell, the fast break dunk. UVA up by 12. Paul Jesperson hit 4 threes all in the second half. Wide open, why not? And Virginia wins 80-69, 17-6 on the season. NC State, figure them out. The Tigers, well, the Wolfpack facing the Tigers of Clemson, and Lorenzo Brown finding C.J. Leslie for the dunk. NC State, though, down by 2.
Well, Lorenzo Brown was huge down the stretch for the Wolfpack. Finding Scott Wood there. That's a big-time shot on the road for the win.
Scott Wood coming around the screen. The game-winning 3 at 9 points. NC State struggling in ACC play, getting a big win on the road, 58-57. Tennessee, South Carolina, both trying to stop losing streaks in this one. Second half, South Carolina is up by 1. Brian Richardson getting the instant offense with the steal. South Carolina up by 3.
Well, no question, offense has been at a minimum in the SEC this year. I'm surprised both these teams cracked 60, but you'll see Skylar McPhee hit this 3, but Jarnell Stokes, another double-double. He's emerging as an offensive force for Conzo Martin.
Moving the ball around, McBee there. Tennessee snapping a slide after back-to-back losses, getting the 5-point win. What to watch for coming up later tonight on ESPNU. Number 4, Duke. On the road to take on Boston College. Duke is looking to avoid the upset here as the top 5 teams 0-5 on the road last week, including 2 upsets yesterday in Madison as well as in Norman. Coming up on the UPS Halftime Report, the game of the season, a look back.
This halftime report is delivered by UPS. Let UPS put the power of logistics to work for you. This halftime report is delivered by UPS. Let UPS put the power of logistics to work for you.
Kevin Nagani, Kara Lawson with you. So far, a crazy, wild college basketball season. Fitting our game of the season, featured 5 overtimes last night. Manti Te'o watching number 25 Notre Dame, hosting number 11 Louisville. Jerry and Grant driving the floor, pulling up and hitting that jumper, and then under 20 seconds left, it's Grant again. We're tied at 60, so we go to overtime, right? Free basketball. Second OT, 20 seconds left. Cam Beacheye buries the clutch 3, and Rick Pitino, he can't believe he's seen his share of games, and this one continued. We're in the 4th overtime. Zach August grabbing the ball, can't get the putback. Garrick Sherman, 17 points off the bench.
How big was Sherman there? Did not play a minute in regulation and played the overtimes, gave his team a big boost on the offensive end.
It seemed like Russ Smith had 85 chances to win the game for Louisville, but he could not get it done. Notre Dame winning 104-101. 10 players scored in double figures, a game that went 65 minutes. That's 5 OTs. 6 players logging 50 or more minutes, including 60 by Eric Atkins of the Irish, and the teams combined to score 85 points in the extra periods after being tied at 60 at the end of regulation. Boy, your body waking up after that? Oh, good luck.
Cold tub all day today.
NBA action, Clippers, they're healthy. They win 102-88 in New York, and currently on ABC right now, Lakers Heat. It's a 2-point lead for Kobe and company over LeBron with just under 5 minutes to go in that first quarter. CJ Fair gave us a great dunk in the first half. It was called back. This three not called back. He has 10 points. Syracuse up by 13 over St. John's. Second half right around the corner.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Audi. Truth in engineering.
Welcome back to ESPN's coverage of Sunday Afternoon Showcase. Big East basketball at the Dome, where the Oranges won a school record 36 straight. That's the longest active home win streak in the nation. Doesn't look like that's in jeopardy. Doesn't look like 5 overtimes right now in our foreseeable future, but who knows? We're going to have to go. But Syracuse's offense right now has been terrific.
Yeah, we're going to take a look at what Syracuse has been able to do against the zone. When you play zone offense, you want to make the bottom guy in the zone have to make a choice. Here you're going to see a little ball screen. If we can freeze it right there. This man here has a choice. Who does he go get? He runs up on Carter Williams, as we'll roll it here now, and leaving Fair wide open in the corner where he drills a three. Now, same action, but on the other side. Here again, here comes a little ball screen. This time, if we can pause it right here, the bottom man in the zone stays. Now, Trish on the wing, knocks it in. That's the action that's given St. John's a ton of problems. And I will say this, St. John's needs to play much faster in their zone. They have been slow in the zone. And the only reason this is only a 13-point halftime lead is simply because Syracuse in the last 3, 4, 5 minutes took some bad shots and made some turnovers. Otherwise, this could be really out of control.
You see our Buick game track. More turnovers for St. John's than field goals. They're right at their season average. One of the best in terms of protecting the basketball, but that's been a big problem today. Some of that has been Syracuse's defense. Some of it has just been bad offense by St. John's.
Yes.
Also, D'Angelo Harrison, 3 fouls and 6 points. And also, for Syracuse, James Sutherland playing in his first game after missing the last 6 due to eligibility issues. He had 2 points but was 0 for 4 from the field. Jakar Sampson, who had 5 turnovers in the first half, now has 7 points after that basket.
It's the fastest I've seen St. John's play right there. And instead of slowing down or taking a 3-point shot, they attacked the rim. Important in the second half.
Foul in the high post as Grant was turning and looking to dump it down low. Pointer picks up the foul. St. John's with a different head coach today with Rico Hines on the bench because Steve Lavin is not here. He is on a flight trying to get back to San Francisco after his father passed away over the night. I want to send our best wishes to Steve and his mother Mary and their family. And obviously you would think that's impacted St. John's in some way, shape, or form, not having a head coach.
I think it's impacting them a bunch. As we said earlier in the broadcast, there's 2 ways to go about it. One is, the real teacher isn't there and it's a substitute teacher. The other is you can play inspired. This is the first time I've seen St. John's inspired at all in this game starting the second half.
3-pointer by D'Angelo Harrison. And when he gets going, usually St. John's as a team gets going, and they're within 8 early in the second half at the Dome. Jim Boeheim, a quick timeout call to start the second half. St. John's has scored the first 5 points. They've passed Dan Dockich. Syracuse trying to get to 20 wins and tie Marquette first place in the Big East at 8-2. 7 teams within 2.5 games. First place in the Big East. It'll be a wild second half. And of course, this is the final Big East season for Syracuse, headed to the ACC. It looks like St. John's, among the Catholic 7, going to stick it out 1 more year before departing. These two schools will continue to play. They got a 2-game series schedule, but this is the final regular season meeting as Big East members. Shot clock down to 6. Carter Williams from the wing rattles home a 3. 8 points now for Michael Carter Williams.
Was that a good play by Trish? He drew, sat down, made a nice bounce pass.
Harrison bumped. That's Grant, his second foul, second on Syracuse. Sutherland set to come in for Syracuse. Senior from Bayside that probably is their best three-point shooter. Averages 14 points per game. The eligibility issues over the last 6 games, reportedly academic, but he has been restored and on the roster for the rest of the season, we think. Although remember, Fab Melo, this similar last year where he's academically ineligible for the NCAA tournament, had some eligibility issues in season as well. And obviously played a big role in what happened with Syracuse against Ohio State in the Elite 8. Harrison way off with a 3-point shot. NBA Sunday on ESPN. Got a primetime matchup from Brooklyn. Spurs and Nets. NBA Sunday presented by State Farm. Your normal college partner Mike Tirico did the Knicks game on ABC. Lost to the Clippers then. Taking the train to the Barclays Center to do the game tonight.
That's an easy train ride. And I'm not surprised. I mean, we ask Tirico all the time, like, would you just come back from Australia for the Open? Or does everything and does it really well.
He's a Syracuse alum, of course, although he's, I don't know who's busier these days, as Christmas just picked up his 4th foul. Tirico or you doing radio shows locally, nationally. Overtime game yesterday in Madison. You're here in Syracuse today. You got Michigan State Tuesday.
What a great life. Can't complain. This is the most fun I've ever had in my life. Sit down here. This dome is I've not been in here since '86 when Mouse McFadden beat us at Indiana. The NCAA tournament. What a place this is.
Bill Green gets the bounce. It cuts the Syracuse lead to 9, 3 minutes in. Michigan State, part of rivalry week. Kentucky, Florida will kick things off on Super Tuesday at 7.
I give Green a lot of credit. Green has played really hard in this game.
Sutherland, his first field goal of the contest, and it stretches the lead to 12. And why not a 3? 38% of the year from out there.
He just gives so much. I mean, you know, he can block shots. He's a big, long guy in this zone. He can rebound, 5.5 rebounds. You know, and here's the other thing. People assume you just stand in a zone. There are good zone players and there are bad zone players, and Sutherland's a very good one. You'll see here again. It's going to end up with a 2-on-1 on the right side. Little ball screen. Wing guy comes up. Middle guy does not get out. Sutherland knocks it in.
And you saw Pointer pointing to Obekpa, who was in the middle of the zone, saying, hey, rotate, which he did not.
And that's what I'm saying, Dave. This zone for, look at this.
Wow, he beat the shot clock buzzer, nailed the 3. Harrison now with 14 points. He struggled the last couple of games, 3 of 21 from the floor entering today. Trish for the answer from way out. Fair with the offensive rebound and a foul. I know Michael Carter Williams gets the publicity, but C.J. Fair, a terrific player. D'Angelo Harrison, one of the top scorers in the league, playing a big role in this mini comeback for St. John's within 9. St. John's has the Syracuse lead down to 9 early in the second half here at the Dome. Really 7 teams still in contention for the Big East Championship, including St. John's. And of course, last night Notre Dame in 5 overtimes beat Louisville. Georgetown, the hottest team, winning 5 in a row. Syracuse still has to play Georgetown twice and at Marquette. Marquette's at Georgetown on Big Monday. Who right now, in your opinion, is the biggest challenger to Boeheim's Bucks?
I would have said Louisville. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with Louisville after that loss and what happens with Notre Dame, because there's always a swing game or swing period during your season. And that may be a swing for both. It may make Louisville a lot better. It may make Russ Smith settle down and understand that maybe there's a calmness that you need at the end of the games. But I would say them, and I love Georgetown. I do. I saw him in person against Indiana earlier in the year, went to overtime. I've been a big fan of Otto Porter since I saw him in Maui last year. I think he's terrific. And John Thompson III runs a system that I think is very difficult to guard and holds up late in the year.
Harrison, wild shot there. Carter Williams out in transition. Great look to Sutherland for the jam. Carter Williams, a terrific athlete, leads the nation in assists, 4th in steals.
I'll tell you what, Pete Newell told me this a long time ago, former great coach at Cal, won national championships. He said, you know, there's 2 ways you tell a great player. Great point guard, when you're a coach, you can just sit back, fold your arms, and know in transition he's going to get you something good. And then the other thing is, in traffic, a great player makes others go away. And Carter Williams is a guy you sit back and go, all right, he's in transition, something good's going to happen.
Harrison from way out. Okita just stepped on him unintentionally. And the officials let that go. St. John's with an extra possession. Nice move. And a 3-point opportunity for maybe consistently St. John's best player, Jakar Sampson, 5-time Big East Rookie of the Week.
Well, in transition, you just know that Carter Williams is going to get you something good if you run. And Sutherland does, and then look at this. Look, just run with him. And that's what I'm saying. People say, well, Sutherland's just a shooter. All right. Well, he's 6'9", can run the floor, can play the back end and affect shots in the zone, can rebound, can block shots. And he's a little bit more than just a guy that's going to shoot a 3-point shot.
Imagine the Syracuse team if Dion Waiters stayed with another pro in this guy right here, Michael Carter Williams. Waiters, who was the 4th pick by the Cavs, wasn't a starter here and is having a good rookie season in Cleveland. There with the jumper, maybe the unsung hero on this orange squad at a double-double against Notre Dame, 18 points, 10 rebounds. Borgo from the corner finally gets one to go, a 3.
They've been wanting Borgo to get that shot. Their first possession of the game, which tells you a lot about the team's offensive setup against the zone, was for Borgo, left-hand corner. Shot 3 of them in the first half, missed all of them, makes that one.
Junior from France, averaging about 8 minutes per game, but became a starter in the last couple games. Jamal Branch is out with a knee injury, 2nd game that the Texas A&M transfer has missed.
Well, you're going to see Borgo. This is the spot again. Bottom man comes up. He comes up, you fill the corner. Borgo filled the corner. And I got to tell you, though, Sutherland, that gave you a little example of his athletic ability. He came all the way up to the wing and then was able to get to the baseline and affect his shot. Again, Sutherland is not just a shooter.
Big possession for St. John's. Got it down to 9. Plenty of time left on the clock. Red Storm has played a lot better since the midway point of the first half. Entry pass to Obekpa. He's in trouble right now. Got it to Borgo and a turnover.
I'm saying, Dave, they're putting the ball in bad spots when they put it on the baseline. You only put it on the baseline if you have a shot. That's it, period.
Here's Fair from the corner. Can't get the 3. Good block out by Sampson, who averages about 6 rebounds per game. Green, Obekpa, got it to go, and it's a 7-point game.
I tell you what, Green has been the key here. Green has played at a level that nobody else is, and he's making others better.
How will Syracuse respond? They've been taking several jumpers here in the last couple of minutes. Fair with a 2-point shot here that won't go. Batted around Akita. And he gets tangled up with Sampson. And a St. John's foul. It's 3rd in the half. That's 3 on Sampson. Pointer's on the bench with 4. Harrison's in the game for St. John's with 3. And Rakeem Christmas on the bench for Syracuse with 4 fouls. Trish puts it on the deck and almost turns it over. Tipped by Harrison. Harrison takes a seat. Syracuse had an opportunity, but Harrison able to get back in position. Michael Carter-Williams from the corner. Long rebound, Bourgault. See if St. John's pushes the tempo. Bourgault short from three. Sampson is there. Put it in. 5-point game. Rico Hines filling in for Steve Lavin. Got this team going here in the second half.
Yeah, both Sampson and Abeka really taking over on the inside. And the other thing is, this zone is much quicker. It just is. It's just much quicker. Fair beats it there, but it's just played with much more energy.
C.J. Fair is really good. 15 points, 8 rebounds.
He's really good. Quietly really good.
Shot clock at 10. Green off the pick. A 2. Won't go. Carter-Williams. Long rebound. Sutherland. Oh, Trish! Oh, my! What a play by the Cuse! Hello, top 10.
Yeah. I woke everybody up in this play. Hey, if you get out and go, Michael Carter-Williams is going to find you. No look pass from Sutherland to Trish. Watch his pass by Sutherland. He goes up and gets it, Anquan Bolden style, and then shuffles it, no look, to Trish. That was a great catch in traffic by the 6'9" Sutherland.
And a big momentum shift as St. John's had cut the lead to 4. Or 5 rather. Syracuse with back-to-back baskets, and now the crowd begins to come alive after that play. They've had so many great meetings over the years between Syracuse and St. John's. This series goes back to 1912. And as we mentioned, they've agreed to a home-and-home the next 2 years, including December 15th at the Garden. Remember that great 1986 Big East Championship game? Ron Rowan and St. John's knocking off Syracuse.
Ron Rowan was a Notre Dame transfer. I believe he started his career. Am I wrong about that?
Harrison fouled. He's calling for a shooting foul. I don't think he's going to get it, though. Trish picks it up, his first personal. Syracuse on top of St. John's midway through the second half. Dan Dockich, a sunny day in Syracuse, especially after Nemo hit a couple days ago. They only got about 7 or 8 inches around the city area. Syracuse on top of St. John's by 9. It's been an incredible week in college basketball. Thrilling finish in Champaign. Indiana did beat Ohio State in Columbus today. Florida got hammered against Arkansas on Tuesday on the road. Tough place to play. Michigan losing 2 of its last 3. Brust there, sending that game to overtime in Madison. You were there for that. Duke has BC tonight, so we'll see what happens in that game, whether Duke vaults to number 1. They've won 4 in a row since losing to Miami. Kansas has lost 3 in a row and plays Kansas State Monday night on ESPN.
How about scoring 4 points in about 13 minutes for Kansas against TCU?
Crazy. How about Jim Boeheim saying, we asked him who's the best team? He says, I don't think there is one right now. Yeah. He thinks his team at the end of the year, though, could be one of them. He feels this is definitely a contender.
He was proud of his win against Arkansas. And again, as you just said in that montage there about how difficult Bud Walton Arena is to play in.
Sutherland had 35 points in that game, by the way. Harrison doing a lot of dribbling, pushed off there, no call, missed the shot, rebounded by Keita. St. John's hanging around, they're outscoring Syracuse because they're shooting in the second half because they're shooting over 50%. Cut the lead to 5 at 1 point. Syracuse can get it back to double digits though here. Sutherland, they didn't get a hand on him, and he buries a 3.
Hey, that was deep. That was really deep. We said at the beginning that this is going to be a good game for Sutherland. I don't know if It's not a great game, but he's certainly playing much better in the second half now that he's far more comfortable.
He's 3 of 4 from the field in the second half with 2 threes.
Yeah, he had bad eyes in the first half. He kind of looked, dazed a little bit by being out here. Second half, much different.
Back to a 12-point Syracuse lead. They've scored 7 straight points. Carter Williams with the rebound. Averages 5 boards per game as a point guard. Here's Sutherland again. And Garrett clears. Harrison alley-oop. Sampson with a throwdown.
Hey, Sampson if Sutherland fell down, wanted a foul, and Sampson just ran right past him, and Sutherland didn't turn and strip, but a heck of a pass. And Sampson caught it right on stride.
If Sampson sticks around, we're going to be talking about this kid a lot next year. Sutherland, another 3. He's got 13 points now, and it's a 13-point lead.
I asked a ton of people, hey, will Sutherland have a big effect? No, not really. Are you kidding me? He and Keita back to this zone are really good. Look at that by Keita.
They do call a foul, though, on Keita, and that's 4 on him. 16 foul on Syracuse.
Samson, you're right. This kid runs, finishes, and I like it, a little twirl at the end. He stuck the landing. How about that?
He's very good friends with LeBron James, both from Akron.
One of the things that LeBron James does not get credit for is the relationship he has with kids in Akron. He's terrific with Keith Dambrot's Akron Zips. Plays with them in the summertime. High school kids come over, so it's no surprise at all that LeBron is friends with a guy like Sampson from his hometown.
Harrison looking for his 15th point. Syracuse runs since St. John's cut the lead to 5. Carter Williams. And got a 3-second violation.
He's more than a three-point shooter, but we've got to show you some threes. That is deep, people. James Sutherland, his first game back, making a big time, and I mean big time impact for the Syracuse Orange.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Wendy's. Now that's better.
Welcome back to Syracuse. Dave Pasch and Dan Dockich. Dockich will have another game, shocker, on Tuesday. Super Tuesday, Michigan State, Kentucky, Florida to tip things off. The rankings obviously will change tomorrow morning. Be interesting to see where Florida is, where Michigan is, and of course, who is number 1. It all starts Tuesday at 7 on ESPN.
Dave, what a gauntlet Michigan has gone through. I mean, last week, you see, they're hanging in there. The last Saturday night game day was in Bloomington, Indiana, beat Michigan. Then Michigan on Tuesday took on Ohio State. That went down to the last play. And then at Wisconsin, went to overtime. And now at Michigan State. I mean, that's as tough a 4-game stretch as anybody will have all year anywhere in the country.
I enjoyed your exchange with Bo Ryan yesterday on SportsCenter.
I love Bo.
I don't know if he enjoyed it, but I enjoyed watching it.
They had 3 fouls to give. They wouldn't have gotten a shot had they fouled 3 times. They got a shot with 1 second to go.
You know, we saw that in the game last night in one of the overtimes. Can't remember which one, in the Notre Dame Louisville game where someone didn't foul. We actually talked with Coach Bam about his philosophy. He said he was always fouling those situations as Sampson scores inside.
You have to foul when you're giving 3. You just do. You have to. I mean, just the way it is. Now, whether a 3-point game coming down to the last possession, that's up to an individual coach. But when you have 3 fouls to give, you've got to at least give 1.
Well, Bam was talking about being down 3.
Yeah, being down 3. That's what Jim was talking about, yes.
St. John's with Garrett hanging in the air, cuts the lead to 8 again with 7 to play.
St. John's has decided, and rightfully so, a good job by Rico Hines to throw the ball inside. And they've been very effective.
Oh, nearly a steal. Trish with a bad pass. Fair on the baseline. So good from there, but it won't rattle home. Sampson, gave it right to Carter Williams. Well, Sampson and Borgo both went for the rebound. Sampson lost his balance and then tried to save it under his own basket.
Yeah, I don't think that was when we see the replay. That wasn't one of those where he fired it underneath. I think he just lost his balance, lost control, and the ball ended up in the middle of the floor.
And 2 guys go on the same team going for a rebound.
It's a big possession here, I think.
Alley-oop to Garrett. Tough shot. Out of bounds to Syracuse.
Yeah, you're going to see here, this is why I say the last possession was a big one for St. John's. 2 guys, as Dave say, they go after the ball, and now he just loses his feet, or gets his feet tangled. You're going to see 2 guys going after the ball, and Sampson loses control, falls down, ball goes in. That's why, you know, a bad play happens, and in basketball, you've got to come right back and score. And it'll be interesting to see from this point on the effect of that play in this game.
Another goaltend. So that's maybe a 6-point swing. You give up 4 points, and you didn't get a basket on the other end.
No question. That's clear goaltend. How athletic is this team, though? I mean, Keaton shoots it, goaltended, and there's Sutherland just dunking it on you.
Yeah, Trish, too, on that transition dunk that he had earlier at 6'4" get up.
And then Fair on transition was going to bring the house down in the first half. Got called for a charge. Did bring the house down, but got called for a charge.
Syracuse trying to get to 8-2 in league play. Tom Marquette atop the standings. And get win number 20. Syracuse has won 2 of the last 3 Big East regular season titles. St. John's next game after this at Louisville on Thursday. Again, don't know the status of Coach Lavin, whether he'll be there or not, after finding out early this morning that his father Cap, who had been ill, passed away. So Steve not here. Rico Hines coaching the team.
And Rico's doing a good job. They've moved it around. They've made an adjustment. The adjustment has been throw the ball inside, particularly in transition. Don't settle for a 3 in transition.
Sampson. And Beckput working hard, gets the tip.
Yeah, and it's not easy. Rico Hines, this isn't easy. You know, you just find out basically today. You were with Coach Lavin last night. You find out today. You don't change anything, but you know, things do change in the course of a game, and I think Rico's done a very good job.
Trish collides with Keita. Fair into the lane. Beautiful move by C.J. Fair with 17 points now.
Broke ankles out on the perimeter, changed direction around, kept his balance, laid it in. As you said earlier, David, it was great insight. He's really good.
I think if they are to be a national title contender, we're going to look back. If they're in the Final Four, we're going to look back and say, boy, C.J. Fair, even though Carter Williams gets a lot of the pub, that C.J. Fair is the biggest reason why. St. John's turns it over.
You know, I'm paid to break down games. Everybody that you see on TV on ESPN is paid to break down games. But let me break the NCAA tournament down for you. Make shots and don't turn it over. And C.J. Fair is that guy for Syracuse. He can make shots, whether they're threes, whether they're pull-ups, whether they're, you know, like you just saw, kind of dipsy doing around the rim. He can make all those shots, and that is enormous as you move through the NCAA tournament.
He's their best rebounder and maybe their best foul shooter as well. Keita with the jam.
That's a great pass by him. Carter Williams made a great pass.
6 assists now. Harrison off target. And Syracuse in control now. 14-point lead with 4 minutes remaining.
Harrison has been far more concerned with a guy in a white hat in Gucci Row here than he has been concerned with the game. And that's really hurt him because his teammates need a leader. And Harrison is the leader, but he's not leading in this game. He's kind of playing for himself.
You're saying one of the fans he's staring?
Yeah, he's been yelling at the guy and smiling and all this other stuff.
Whoa, my! Jakar Sampson. Nobody was expecting that wearing white when he caught the ball.
And nobody on St. John's got excited. Like, this is just a game. You and I got excited.
The crowd got excited.
The crowd did.
And they're wearing orange and white. Nearing the 3-minute mark, 12-point game. Fair got stripped. Good defense by Pointer, playing with 4 fouls. Sampson, and he got it to go. And it's a 10-point game. St. John's not done yet. This is how this team's been, though, this year, St. John's. Winners in 6 of their last 7. Had some tough losses earlier in the year, but Joe Lenardi has them in right now. According to his latest bracketology, they're in the tournament. We'll see what happens.
I don't think they've played well here, but they've scrapped. And
do they look like a tournament team to you?
no, but that doesn't mean they're not, because it's one of those teams where you sit there and go, man, they look bad, but all of a sudden they got a chance to cut it to a 6-point game or 8-point game.
They couldn't execute on one end, and then Carter Williams hanging and scoring on the other end. And St. John's calls a timeout. That was a big sequence there to come up empty on one end and then watch Carter Williams go to work on the other end. But C.J. Fair, the leading scorer in the game, with 17 points.
Well, as my esteemed partner said, he's really good. He's going to knock in a 3. And look where the ball spins. He's a shooter, and you can tell based on the spin of the ball. You see right here, he breaks ankles, changes direction, keeps his chin on the rim. Making shots is so big. And he has just the ability to make a variety of them, including 3s.
Look at his Big East rankings. He's their best free throw shooter, their best rebounder, one of their better 3-point shooters. Doesn't take a lot of them, and he plays every minute. Now, coming into the day, he had played every minute of the last 5 games, including 45 minutes against Villanova.
Well, he has about a perfect basketball body. Probably 0% body fat, long arms, athletic build. So, and he plays in the zone. So right now he's resting.
He actually sat a minute in the first half.
Yeah.
Played 19 of the 20 minutes.
Yeah. He won't sleep tonight. He'll have too much energy. That's a bad spot against Syracuse. That's a really bad spot.
And they turned it over. 3 on 2. And Carter Williams with the big lead, and the team in command will slow it down.
Yeah, that was out of a timeout. You can't put the ball in that spot against Syracuse. And the reason is they're too long and athletic.
Carter Williams to Trish. It goes from nearly a turnover to a beautiful assist.
Coaches that are going to watch this tape, let me give you a hint how to guard Carter Williams. Give him no angles, because when he gets an angle, he finds his teammate. You have to play him square-shouldered and not let him get past you.
Syracuse foul underneath. 1:28 left. Syracuse on its way to win number 20.
Welcome to my city, city, city. It looks so pretty, pretty, pretty. Welcome to my city,
ESPN College Basketball available live anytime, anywhere on your computer, tablet, or smartphone at WatchESPN.com over the Watch ESPN app. And Dockage is not on Twitter. That's what he's doing.
That is my favorite. That's the best invention since the fork. That is. If you're a sports fan, you got to get that. I mean, you can watch it on your phone, watch it on your iPad, watch it in the airport. Don't watch it while you're driving, though. And can all you people stop texting and driving?
I appreciate the PSA there, but I get enough of that with my other partner during the week. By the way, maybe we can get a Walton Dockage 3-man booth at some point here.
I would be in awe.
I don't think I'd get a word in, as we've got a St. John's foul. Bekpa.
You and Bill Walton are must-see TV.
Now we have fun.
Oh, my
great
gosh. Pretty good backcourt numbers.
And how about the bench,
Bill would
too?
say? What would he say? Carter Williams came out with a plan today.
Should certainly be the game of the millennium with the fate of the known world at hand. As Sampson pushes Sutherland as St. John's is trying to get to the bonus. He's still got another foul to give. That's 4 on Sampson. By the way, how about the bench for Syracuse today? 21 points, most in Big East play this year. And James Sutherland, in his first game back after missing 6 due to those eligibility issues, he has 13 points.
Be interesting, I'm telling you, going forward to see what he does next game out. I have no idea why. What are we calling there?
Foul on Garrett again, or on Green, as again they're trying to get to the bonus so they can put Syracuse in the line.
I know, but don't you have to touch the guy?
This is what you were begging for yesterday with Wisconsin.
You're right. You're right. But now it's.
That's a 17 foul, so now you get the free throws. You get the 1 and 1.
Had Wisconsin done that, they would have saved themselves a lot of heartache. Still won the game in overtime, maybe. You think Bill Walton, if he was a Syracuse alum, would be comfortable with Jim Boeheim as the coach?
I don't know that we need to go there.
Okay. Okay.
My guess would be yes.
Absolutely.
909 wins.
And anybody, and I mean anybody, doesn't think Jim Boeheim is an elite coach is crazy. Like, he's on the Mount Rushmore of coach. Look at the names who he is with. Mike Krzyzewski, Coach Mike Krzyzewski, and Coach Bob Knight. That's it at 900.
And I don't know that anybody really thinks that anymore, that he's not an elite coach.
There's a few people in the media that don't think he's an elite coach. And I'm watching how his team executes against his own. And I got to tell you, they've missed some shots, thrown the ball away once or twice, but they do as good a movement, as good actions against the zone as anybody in the country. They should, because they play zone. But they're connected to him. They're connected to one another. It's a really good basketball team. I know I'm stating the obvious, but this is a really good basketball team.
Now, last year had 34 wins, most in school history. They lost just 1 conference game then when Fab Melo went out because of the academics. That certainly changed the landscape for Syracuse. They lost to a bigger Ohio State team in the Elite 8. And we'll see, first of all, what kind of a seed Syracuse gets this year. They were a 1 seed last year, and then how deep they can go in the tournament.
Let's talk about that. So they lose Fab Melo, who's a first-round draft choice, yet they still get to the Elite 8. It's pretty good. I wonder how many. I always said this about Coach Knight. He won 3 national championships with only 1 guy that ever played in the NBA All-Star game. Now, some people criticize Jim Boeheim for not producing NBA All-Stars, and that's just idiotic.
By the way, Pointer fouled out. That was the reason for the delay.
That's right. We're just talking. But it's he's taken mid-level to very good recruits and made them better. And I don't believe he's put that many guys in the NBA All-Star game. Which is a testament to how good he's been as a coach here.
And if you talk to Jim, too, he will always credit his staff. And one guy in particular, as Green misses, Troy Weaver had a lot to do with their success. He's now the assistant GM in Oklahoma City. But, of course, Mike Hopkins, a former player here, longtime assistant. Wouldn't be surprised if Mike's name is mentioned for the USC job. Mike is from Los Angeles, played at Mater Dei. But, of course, Mike probably has this job here when Jim Boeheim decides to retire, but who knows when that will be.
Mike's job, or Mike's name, should be mentioned with every job that comes open, in my opinion. We had a great time with him. He talked about his experience with USA Basketball, Dave, and it was just fascinating.
I think at USC he'd be terrific. As Carter Williams hits a 3, and that'll do it. The win streak at home goes to 37, a school record, and the longest active streak in college basketball. And another 21 season for Jim Boeheim, number 35 in 37 years as head coach. We'll be back to the Carrier Dome in just a moment. Win number 20 for Syracuse beats St. John's 77-58 the final here at the Dome. 37 straight wins at the Carrier Dome. And now Dan Dockich standing by with Jim Boeheim.
Coach Boeheim and C.J. Fair here with me. Coach, 35 20-win seasons, the most in the history of NCAA basketball. That's really good. Congratulations.
Thank you. It means I've been here a long time. That's what that means. I had a lot of good players like this kid next to me. It was a hard game. It was just so slow. You know, couldn't get a rhythm to it. But, you know, we made enough good plays, you know, to win the game.
C.J., let's talk about C.J. for a second. You move him around a lot. What is a luxury, or what is the luxury of having a guy like C.J. Fair, particularly against his own?
Well, he can play anywhere. He got made 2 corner threes. He made 2 high post jump shots, and he made a couple drives. So to have a guy like that against his zone is very important. You can't just make outside shots. You have to get the ball in those other areas, and he does that. Tremendous all-around player. He's the rock out there for us. Our guards were good, though, today. They controlled the game for us.
James Sutherland came back, made an impact with 13 points.
Yeah, he can shoot the ball. We know that. He's just got to get in game shape, that's all. Once he gets into game shape, he'll help us.
Look much more comfortable he did in the second half.
Yeah, you're going to be a little excited in the first half. And second half, he got the same shots and knocked them down. He makes those shots. We don't see that many zones, but when we do, you know, we're pretty effective against it.
Coach, thanks.
Thank you.
Talk to CJ. Congratulations once again. CJ, we just talked to Coach about moving you around the court. How important do you feel it is, how important is your versatility for this team?
I think it's important because we got outside shooters like James and Brandon, and for me, I go in the middle, and that kind of spreads the floor out, and then once I get in the middle, it leaves me wide open. So I just got to be confident and knock down the mid-range shot, and looking for the open shooters.
All right, this is for my benefit, maybe nobody else's. You flew down the court, you dunked it on everybody in the building. They called a charge, didn't look like there was any contact. Was there any contact?
Me personally, I was in a moment. I didn't feel anything, but I looked back, they called a charge, but I mean, I wish I could have that one back, but I mean, it is what it is.
How big is it for you guys, the team, to have Sutherland back?
It's big because he add the extra threat to our offense that we need, and when he's on the court, it's hard to guard us because he spread the floor out so well, and he's such an outside threat. That kind of helps me out a lot.
How comfortable does it make you, whether it's zone or man-to-man, to play with a guy like Michael Carter-Williams?
When you got a point guard like Mike, you know you're going to get the ball, and you know he's going to make the right play. And for him being out there, he's a big part of our team. Congratulations.
Great effort. Let's go back to Dave.
17 points, 9 rebounds for C.J. Fair as Syracuse wins it 77-58. We'll have final thoughts from the Carrier Dome when we come back. Syracuse now tied with Marquette atop the Big East standings. Marquette has a big one on Big Monday against Georgetown. Syracuse now 8-2 in league play. Dave Pasch, Dan Dockich. All right, Dave, this is the first time you've seen Syracuse in person this year. Is the Orange the best team in this conference? And where do you rank them among the best teams in the country that you've seen?
I think with James Sutherland back, they're the best team in the Big East, and I think they're in the top 3 or 4 in the country. The thing I will say, though, is they have too many lulls in their game. Like, you know, they were getting ready to blow this game out in the first half. All of a sudden, for a 5-minute stretch, took some really bad quick shots. And you can't do that, particularly on the road in conference play, late in conference play when you're fighting for a championship. But with Sutherland back, they're long, they're athletic. They're really connected. And Michael Carter-Williams has the complete trust of Coach Boeheim, and he trusts Coach Boeheim. Like, they're looking at each other during the game, whether it's in the zone or against the zone, and I thought that was really impressive.
And the other guy that was impressive today, C.J. Fair. He's been pretty consistent, plays just about every minute of every game.
Yeah, and if you can play like C.J. Fair can play, why not play him every minute? And very versatile. We talked about inside, outside, offensive rebounding, plays in the middle of a zone, can take the ball to the rim, finish around the rim. You know, he's the kind of guy that as you move forward, can make big plays in a lot of different ways. You see his numbers.
First time in 6 games that he has not played at least 40 minutes. He played 39, and he had 17 points. Some think should have had 19, that the dunk that he had was not an offensive foul. He also had 9 rebounds. What about St. John's now? A team that is still in the NCAA tournament hunt, probably with the loss, though, losing a chance to win the Big East title.
Well, they're a scrappy team. They're a little bit undersized, but when they went inside, they were very effective. And I do think this. I think D'Angelo Harrison has to become their leader. And if he does that, they're in good shape.
Big win for Syracuse, beating St. John's. And that's 20 wins now for Jim Boeheim, 35th 20-win season. The Globetrotters are next, but right now, Kevin Nagandi in the studio.
Kevin Nagandi here with Kara Lawson. The big story at the start of the day. How would Indiana respond coming off a devastating, stunning loss against Illinois on the road against Ohio State? Looking to avoid back-to-back losses for the first time since January of 2012. Thad Matta's team, he had Deshaun Thomas dropping the three-year. He had 26 points.
Yeah, Deshaun Thomas might be the hardest guard in the Big Ten because of his versatility. Great from the outside, and he can also use his strength on the inside.
Victor Oladipo's his name coming in. He would not be denied. Oh, wow. Indiana up by 8 at the break. Then it's Cody Zeller finding Oladipo. It was Indiana's big three. They were the story in Columbus.
Absolutely, and Oladipo has emerged as the most impactful Hoosier this year. And that play right there, that jumper, this three, Indiana was able to stretch it out to the 10-point lead and hold on.
Oladipo with 26 points, Zeller with 24, Christian Watford with 20, all three combining for 70 of the 81 points for Indiana. They rebound with an 81-68 victory. How about UConn? They needed a strong second half. At one point, Kevin Ollie's squad down by 7 to Seton Hall, but then it's the guard play. Shabazz Napier and Ryan Boatwright.
It always is for Kevin Ollie. It's his backcourt. And how many times do you see a 5'10" alley-oop to a 5'9" guy? Yes, those are your real heights, guys, not your roster heights. You're 5'9" and 5'10". What a display of athleticism from the Huskies.
Napier and Boatwright playing bigger than the listing. UConn wins 78-67. Virginia, Maryland, the annual Gold Rush game for the Terps. It wasn't working for the Cavaliers. They were money. Joe Harris from outside.
11 threes for Tony Bennett's squad on the road. A huge road win. They solidify third place in the ACC. They're the team that's breathing down Duke and Maryland's necks. Or, I'm sorry, Duke and Miami's necks right now.
And then it's Paul Jesperson. He had 4 threes all coming in the second half. You're going to leave him wide open. He's going to make it pay. The Cavaliers win 80-69, 17-6 overall. How about NC State? They've been struggling. They've lost 3 in a row, taking on Clemson. In Clemson, the Tigers have won. Well, they had led most of the game, and there's C.J. Leslie for the dunk. Now, NC State down by 2, under 10 seconds to go. It's time for Scott Wood.
Scott Wood with the huge shot, but also Lorenzo Brown down the stretch. He had the assist, and he also had a big play to give them the lead in this game. But how about Scott Wood there, the 3? Huge win for Mark Godfrey. Stopped the losing streak.
58-57, the final. What to watch for coming up later today on ESPNU, the 4th-ranked Duke Blue Devils hit the road to take on Boston College. Duke is looking to avoid the upset here as top 5 teams 0-5 on the road last week, including 2 upsets yesterday in Madison as well as in Norman. Has not been a good week for the top 5. And potentially we could see Duke move up to number 1 in the polls. Different story, though. They would be number 1 in the polls, but in your mind, are they the number 1 team in the country?
Well, no, I don't think they are. And, you know, with Duke, you have to look at the fact that they don't have Ryan Kelly, who's a huge piece to what they do. But to me, Indiana is the best team in the country, and I would have Florida right behind them. But you see this year, and it's not the first week we said, rough week for the top 5 teams, right? We've had a couple rough weeks for the top 5 teams. There's a lot of parity, not just at the top, but everywhere. And I think that's great for college basketball. But I like Indiana. And their front court, Cody Zeller now starting to play up to that All-American standards. They're tough to beat.
Number 1's nice and all, but I don't think anybody wants to be number 1 right now. 5 straight weeks, you're number 1, and then you lose later on in the week. And then for Duke, later on in their week, they face off against North Carolina. It's rivalry week on ESPN. That game Wednesday night, 9 Eastern on ESPN.